Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday afternoon press conference. We're glad to have everybody here today. We are here with Commissioner Bob Harvey, Commissioner Jean DiGirolamo, our Emergency Services Director, Scott Forster, and our Health Director, Dr. David Damsker, as well as Public Information Director, Larry King, who will pose the questions. And I think we'll just jump right into that if it's okay, Larry, and start right off.
All right, Commissioner, the first questions, excuse me, come from Tom Sofield from Levittown Now. First question is, where does the county's business grant program stand? Will there be a second round? And if so, are you able to release some more information about that?
Swinging right to Commissioner Harvey.
I did see a couple of questions about that grant. Before the grant application even launched, a decision was made here in the county that if there were any businesses who had minor problems or omissions in their application, they didn't check a box or something minor on their mathematics didn't add up, that we would not automatically disqualify them. That we would reach out to those businesses and allow them to, a little bit of time, like a day, to make any kind of corrections or additions, so that we could make sure that we're trying to help everybody who needs help and not to disqualify somebody for something very minor. We did actually have a lot of companies, businesses that submitted applications that had some of those defects, some of those flaws or missing information. So we had to spend several days, really, quite frankly, more than we planned, going back and reconnecting with all those businesses, sending emails to them individually, because obviously not every business missed the same thing. So that did slow us down a little bit. Our goal right now, we believe we're going to have all of the analysis done by the company that we hired to do the analysis. That's going to be done, we believe, by the end of day tomorrow. And that'll allow us to make some announcements next week. In terms of rounds of funding, the commissioners did approve last week increasing the amount that we would dedicate to economic recovery and grants from $6 million to $30 million. And so it's very likely that all of the companies, the roughly 1,500 businesses who submitted, a good chunk of them are going to be getting funding over the next couple of weeks. We are talking a little bit about doing more, another program slightly different, maybe aimed at maybe some different businesses than the ones who were applying for this one. We're kind of holding on that right now simply because the governor just announced the other day a $225 million program to help small businesses. So we want to make sure that we're not, overlapping too much and seeing the people that we are helping with our business grants and the people that might be targeted by the governor's, programs. Is there anybody that's missing? Is there any business that we didn't hit with ours and he's not hitting with his? And then maybe see if we can design something to hit that group.
Thank you. By the way, before we get another question in there, we have been joined sort of by Gail Humphrey and Tom Freitag. Gail's our clerk of courts and Tom is with the Board of Elections in case there are any election questions. So back to you, Larry.
Okay, also from Tom Sofield, has Dr. Damsker seen any early signs of COVID-19 case increases after several large gatherings in Bucks County and other surrounding areas?
Dr. Damsker?
Thank you. At this time, good news, we have not. Of course, it's still relatively early, but the gatherings have been going on for many, many days, and we haven't had one. We are asking everybody that we contact trace, have they been to any of those gatherings, and we have not yet had one that at least have admitted to being there. So that's good news. We will continue to ask that question, and we think it's good. Hopefully, if people do go there and they are positive, we definitely would like to know. It's good for the community to know the risks that are inherent in those kinds of things. If there's not a lot of cases coming out of it, that will tell us a lot also, that maybe the large gatherings, if people are social distancing and wearing masks and doing those kinds of things, they may be relatively safe. But we can't obviously say that at this early important time, but so far so good. And we will be obviously in touch with the public if we do see numbers of cases rising from those.
Thanks.
Okay, a few questions from Jeff Bowen of Lower Bucks Source. I think Commissioner Harvey probably answered most of this, but there were a couple follow-ups. about the back to work grants, and that is, do we have a number of total applicants? And I don't think we have any total number of approved grants, but can you give an idea of the number of applicants?
Yeah, it was a roughly 1,500 applications came in. You know, part of the process is making sure that we know, if they're all fitting in the qualifications that we set out. I believe that they are, and we have not been any awards yet.
I'm worried that we're not
Okay. We also had a question again about the social gatherings, which I think that Dr. Damsker just handled. But for Commissioner DiGirolamo, was asking about your thoughts about the legislative battle going on in Harrisburg in regard to Governor Wolf's emergency order and the passing of the resolution recently.
Yeah, I mean, constitutional crisis comes to mind when you're thinking about what's going on with this. And again, it certainly is a disagreement between I think the Republican members of the legislature in the House and the Senate and the governor and his administration about this resolution, and whether the governor has the ability to veto the resolution or not. My understanding is that the resolution has not been sent to the governor by the Republican legislature. And I believe, as I understand it, that they're going to file something in Commonwealth Court asking them to say that the governor does not have the ability to veto the legislation, that it has to become in statute and law, and he's going to have to follow it, which would mean that the governor's emergency order would go away. My sense of what's going to happen is that this thing is probably going to be drawn out in court, even though if the Commonwealth Court would rule, I think the other side would probably take it to the Supreme Court. The governor said that there's an awful lot of good things that are in his emergency order that would go away, and that would be like protections for people who have trouble paying their rent, or people who have trouble paying their utility bills so that their electric or their water would not get shut off. So I think this is like a tempest in a teapot myself. The governor has also said that even if his emergency order would be overturned, that there was a parallel order from the Department of Health that would still be in effect, that would basically be the same thing as his emergency order. So I don't see this thing having a very little effect on what's going on right now as far as the different colors and the phases. And I think this is probably going to be drawn out in court. And by the time it's settled, the constitutionality issue of whether he can veto it or not, by the time that gets settled in court, or if it ever gets settled in court, I think we'll hopefully all be in the green phase, or maybe even move out of the green phase and be completely opened up. That's just my understanding of the situation.
Thanks. Anybody else want to comment on that? Okay, go ahead, Larry.
Okay, from Kara Seymour at Patch. According to the state's own data, Bucks County is currently meeting 4 out of 4 benchmarks to advance to the next phase of coronavirus mitigation. Have you heard anything specific about when the governor expects to move Bucks into the green phase?
I have not, and we'll pass this on, and maybe even Dr. Damsker would like to make some remarks on it, but I do want to say that that's great news. We have been ready, and we're ready to move now. We're just trying to have a cooperative relationship here with the state, but I'm thrilled with the work Dr. Damsker and his health department have done for us. They have taken such a great lead with contact tracing and handling this county. We are so grateful that we have the kind of marks that we do right now, and that's what it is. And also thanks to the public for cooperating with us. This has been difficult, but especially the social distancing and wearing masks, that's what's gotten us here under Dr. Damsker's leadership. Commissioner Harvey, Commissioner DiGirolamo, or do you want me to give it to Dr. Damsker?
No, I'm fine with Dr. Damsker. Go ahead and addressing it.
Thank you, commissioners. We feel like here in Bucks County, we are ready to move to green as soon as the governor lets us. Hopefully, as early as next Friday, potentially, maybe the Friday after that. We do have the infrastructure to move forward into green, we believe now. Again, that's thank you to all the staff here at the Health Department, Emergency Management, the people at the county, and of course our residents that have helped us do this. But, you know, and I've said this at other press conferences, I'll say it again, we are sort of at a baseline number now, where I believe we will probably see the same numbers of cases that we have today and tomorrow and the next day for many, many, many weeks to come, until there's either a vaccine or until we're lucky enough to snuff the virus out totally based on social distancing. And given that, given everything we have in place for contact tracing and our health department, we feel like we're ready to go. We're willing to put out guidelines for anyone who needs them, and we're hoping that the governor does not completely tie us into the other 4 counties in southeastern Pennsylvania. Hopefully they'll be ready to move soon as well. But we do believe they're ready to move to green as soon as the governor allows us, which could be as early as next Friday if we're lucky. If not then hopefully a week after that. But we are ready here today in Bucks County.
Thank you. Larry?
From Nikki Chacho of Bucks County Newsfeed. We saw Governor Wolf attend a Black Lives Matter march among hundreds of people in Dauphin County on June 3rd, while our county was still under the yellow phase, breaking his own order. He said, public gatherings are dangerous to our health and well-being for all Pennsylvanians. Due to violating his own restrictions, did he send a message that Pennsylvania can open to green now? And has Bucks County addressed this action with the governor?
I don't know that the county has directly addressed that with the governor. I have communicated some concerns about it just in terms of messaging. I would imagine that it means that the governor cared very deeply about the issue, so I guess that's what happened there. Commissioner Harvey, DiGirolamo, anybody else want to?
Well, yeah, I think the message the governor was sending is that there are sometimes you have to make a choice about the issues you're standing for. In addition to leading us through what's been going on with the coronavirus, you know, I think obviously the social turmoil, the racial injustice, the issues that have been, you know, raised up into the forefront are ones that need serious attention. And I think he felt like his presence there, you know, was important. And, you know, certainly I understand that point of view.
I mean, I totally understand the governor's heart was absolutely in the right place, and he felt a need for him to be there. And, you know, might it have sent a wrong message to some people? I think maybe, but I think for the most part, people understood that the governor wanted to be there to show his support for what was going on. You know, I really don't think it did any damage at all by him participating, although we're still trying to keep the message that, you know, everybody's got to wear a mask, everybody's got to practice social distancing, everybody's got to be careful and safe. And so that message is still a message that we're, as commissioners here in Bucks County, is still want to make sure that it gets out to the people that live in Bucks County, that they still have to have concerns and still have to be careful.
And I will add to that, the governor had his mask on. And I'm sure Dr. Damsker would weigh in that we are seeing more and more how important that is.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. That's exactly right. Well, I call this kind of practical epidemiology, right? You know, this is something that people felt like they had to do. We had a lot of people at those protests. And if we find that, you know, there's not a lot of spread or any spread from people wearing masks and paying attention to that, that's really good. You know, we know that information that'll help us move forward. For instance, you know, we had the 2 haircuts, the 2 ladies cutting hair in Missouri. They cut people's hair while they were symptomatic, but they both were wearing masks, and the people were also wearing masks who were getting their hair cut. And they tested a bunch of people after that, and none of them came back positive. So again, that's something we didn't want to happen, but now that it happened, we can take something good out of it. And I look at the marches similarly, like to that you know, things are happening that we don't have any real research for to back it up to see what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. And if we don't see a spike from these protests that people felt was really important, that's really good data for us to use moving forward when we design our guidelines for green and beyond. Just like it does for the hair salons potentially opening, is that people wearing masks and face shields and being smart didn't spread it to any of their clients. So I think that things happen, and sometimes we can take really good information from that and move forward.
Thanks. Larry?
A question from Tom Averill of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Have there been any additional cases tied to the Jersey Shore patient? The last update said there had been a total of 12.
Yeah, we don't want to get into specific numbers, but there's been a couple of household contacts that have tested positive, and we have one other case that we're not sure exactly how it happened, but he was related. We haven't been in touch with that patient yet, but we know somehow it was related to either the gathering or an exposure after the gathering. So there's been a couple more, and we had anticipated that was going to be the case, but we're hoping that given the fact that it was now a couple of weeks ago, that these numbers won't be too much more than we've seen right now, given that people are aware and that symptomatic people are getting tested. So that's how you contact trace and you test, and that's how you stop these kinds of outbreaks. And so far, that's been pretty successful.
Okay, from Todd Shepard of the Delaware Valley Journal. Could the commissioners describe what strides they feel the county has made toward racial inclusion and justice in the last decade, or even describe what the biggest missed opportunities have been? What are the biggest challenges ahead for the county in those regards, and how would the county plan on tackling those challenges?
That's a big question, and I need to let it settle in for a minute because, you know, one of the things that I've been wanting to work on for the past 12 years as a commissioner and for more than 30 years myself is to make things more equal and more fair and less bigotry here. You know, in recent years, one of the biggest things I think we've worked on is to try to have more awareness of different cultural groups, more inclusion. There was, a lot of xenophobia out there for the past few years, and I think we have tried to tamp that down a little bit by making sure that different groups are interacting and we're all learning about different cultures. That's probably the most important thing that can happen, because once people are together and they learn about each other and they learn about differences, they also figure out how similar they are. A couple of years ago, we developed there was a long-term human relations council here. And they basically took kind of phone calls on a phone system, and they called people back. We have a more aggressive human relations council now, and they try to have programs, and they try to go out and reach out to the community, when there's problems. We have worked with the Peace Center more often to try to have programs that, together to try to, spread racial harmony. We have been financially supporting the Martin Luther King effort they make every year. They have a program where they bring a lot of students together. I want to pass this off real quick so I can start to remember other things and where we want to go. Bob or Jean, want to jump in?
Yes, I think, I grew up in Bristol Borough, which of course is a very racially diverse community. And obviously Commissioner DiGirolamo and from Ben Salem also, obviously a lot of racial diversity. And I think that the proximity of people of different backgrounds to each other is really the best way to foster that kind of togetherness and understanding. Bucks County, oftentimes when people talk about it, it's not one county, it's three counties. There's Lower Bucks, Central Bucks, Upper Bucks. And that separation, I think, does have an impact in terms of how people see other parts of the county. I was at the march last weekend, or this past weekend, I should say, in Bristol Borough, and it was good to see people who I know were not from Bristol Borough there. People from different parts of the county, and I was wondering if any of them had ever been there before, to sort of see the town and walk through the town, and even though they were obviously there, marching for racial justice and equality, I was hoping they also got a feel for the community itself and the town itself, and got an appreciation for it. And I think just getting people to go to towns that they have never been to before. From people from Bristol Borough traveling to Regalsville or Quakertown, and people from Quakertown traveling to Ben Salem, and learning more about our county, and people who live here, and understanding that breaking down maybe some of that xenophobia, breaking down some of those notions they may have because of things they've heard about different parts of the county and people who live there and what the communities are like. I think the communities are a lot more alike, regardless of the color of the skin of the people who live in them. The communities throughout this county are much more alike than people may think they are.
Yeah, just to add a little something, I mean, growing up in Bensalem, and I've lived there my whole life, one of my heroes was St. Catherine Drexel, who was a Catholic nun and formed a religious order, and the mother house was in Bensalem, and she started in 1890. She was part of the Drexel estate, inherited a lot of money, about $20 million in 1890, so you can imagine how much that would probably be in today's numbers. And she decided not only to put all of her money, but she dedicated her life to helping out the people who at that time in the United States were at most in need. And that was the African Americans and the Native American Indians in the United States. And she has always been a hero to me because of what she did to help fight racism and help people of color improve their lives. And it was not only to her about making sure they had food and shelter, it was about education equality and helping people get an education and improve their lives. And she started a university in New Orleans, Xavier University, which was then and still the largest predominantly African-American Catholic university in the United States. So I grew up, and my grandparents knew Catherine Drexel. She died in 1955. And she has absolutely been one of my heroes. And when I look at my community where I live in Bensalem, and I actually, when I look around Bucks County, and if I would say I would wish that St. Catherine Drexel, and in a lot of ways, Dr. Martin Luther King, would come back and look at what's going on in Bensalem and look at what's going on in the rest of Bucks County. And they would come back, and I would hope, and I think that they would say, that's what I would like to see. That's what I wanted to see happen. Because I really think that we get along. The different communities and nationalities and religion and racial groups, we get along really, really well here in Bucks County. And I want to continue to grow on that. There's absolutely no place for hate or racism, not only in Bucks County, but across this great country that we live in. So I think it's incumbent that we communicate together, we work along together, and I really happen to think that Bucks County is really, really good when it comes to people of different color, different nationalities, different religions getting along. We have done a great job here in Bucks County of making sure that happens.
I just want to throw something out there moving forward too. We have been trying to work with the African American Museum in Bucks County. We were able to get them a vehicle last year because they're a traveling museum, although it took quite a while for us to be able to actually get them the title and the keys to it, but they have it now. And we've been talking about trying to partner with them and helping them find a location to have a permanent museum. And I think that's important to understand because that helps us understand one another. Through museums, we see different cultures' history, and that's an important responsibility that we have. The other thing is this doesn't come directly from the commissioners, but our district attorney has been working with a program called Walking While Black, Love is the Answer. It's working with different police chiefs to show that movie and to have community conversations. We'd like to be a part of that. We are encouraging different communities to have that. Little difficult right now with social distancing, but I know that he's planning on doing somewhere we can actually sit in 6 feet apart with masks and try to work on that. So those community conversations are something that the three of us are definitely going to be promoting, and we're glad to have the district attorney doing that. Thanks, Larry.
Okay, a couple questions from Chris Ullery of the Intelligencer. Can you give any details as to why Dr. Jennifer Liu stepped down as medical director for the Shamany Manor Nursing Home?
I guess I can ask Dr. Damsker to answer this off the top of my head. I mean, usually when I leave a job, it's because I want to do something else. So I would imagine that maybe she wanted to do something else. Probably a good time to want to leave and go to do something else if that's the kind of situation we were having in all the nursing homes across the country. Dr. Damsker, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, when people leave jobs, there's probably a myriad of reasons under the sun, and if she didn't want to work here anymore, that she has every right to go somewhere else, and it's not up to any of us to speculate exactly to what that was. We have a new team in place. They're doing a terrific job so far, and the care has been continued and continue to be good care.
Any other comment on that? Larry?
Okay, also from Chris, it's sort of an initial question with an addendum. And he said a new Department of Community Economic Development block grant program for counties was just announced this morning, covering a variety of programs to cover costs incurred in the pandemic through the end of the year. He's wondering whether the county reviewed this program and could the commissioners comment on it. But then I got a subsequent email saying that apparently Bucks County is not eligible for that particular program because the county may have already received another form of federal funding. So the question about that grant should be, do the commissioners have any comment on why the county is ineligible for that grant and if the ineligibility poses any shortfalls or problems?
We'll go down if anybody has anything. My immediate reaction is it's because we were a larger county, so we probably got more money from the CARES Fund. Commissioner Harvey or DiGirolamo?
Yeah, I saw that when the press release came out about that DCED grant. It did say that it was designed for counties that did not already get CARES funding. Obviously, the 7 big counties in Pennsylvania got their own funding through the CARES Act. So this was more geared at the 60 counties that did not.
Yeah, just to remind everybody, I mean, Bucks County, we were one of the 6 counties in Pennsylvania that originally got a share of the CARES money, and that was because we had a population of over 500,000 people. So I think there were 6 counties in Pennsylvania that got a share of the money. We were very grateful, very fortunate. We got almost $110 million here in Bucks County. It was $3.9 billion that Pennsylvania got. $1 billion went to those 6 counties, and the other $2.9 billion, according to the federal law and the CARES Act, was going to be shared with the other counties who didn't get the original, who were under a population of 500,000. So that's why we are not getting a share of that money, because we already got our share.
Okay, a couple questions from Frida Savannah of the Bucks County Herald. I think you've talked a little bit about this, but more specifically, what can Bucks County do to enhance racial equality within its administrative systems?
That's a good question. I think in the next week or so, when we have our commissioners meeting, we're going to try to announce a few new steps in that direction. One of the things that I think that we would like to see, and this is a gender as well as a racial equality thing, like to do something about questions on job applications that ask for people's previous income, which can sometimes make someone who was making less money be able to start, be then offered less amount of money, or also asking if people have ever had any kind of a crime or conviction or even an arrest in their past. Commissioner Harvey, did you want to say anything about maybe any new groups we might be starting as well?
Yeah, we have looked at, and COVID sort of got in the way of this. We've taken a look at some of the boards and commissions we have here in Bucks. This board of commissioners did name, Dr. Brodus Davis, the first African American to sit on the Bucks County Community College Board of Trustees earlier this year, so he was a proud addition to that. We are also looking at forming a new committee called the New Americans Committee, which will be focused on immigrants to the United States who live here in Bucks and things that we can do as a county to learn more about their experiences and how we can help them. That's something that we are in the midst of sort of forming and gathering some people for, that's sort of been interrupted by the pandemic. But we are focused on that. The Human Relations Commission, as Commissioner Marseglia said, is another commission that we want to empower them to do the things they need to do to help all the residents of Bucks County, live the best lives they can. And I know when we did a few things, we've reached out for a new human services director. We just hired, she just started a few weeks ago. But also when we are looking for a chief information officer, we're putting out pretty broad, advertisements to as many places as we can, just to try and make sure that we're getting the best candidates we can. And we're hoping that we get people of different backgrounds and who can apply and try to reach out to as many of those populations as we can to try and do that. But there's always going to be room to get better, and America's never finished being built. So we're always going to keep trying to do everything we can to make things a little better every day.
Gene, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's good enough. I have nothing else to add. I think he's answered the question pretty well.
I think one other thing, though, just to throw in there, is we are probably going to take a look at making sure that we are being leaders even with our own staff, and to maybe do some programs in the future to make sure that staff are recognizing racial bias or any of those issues that come up.
Okay, I think this is the last question, also from Frida Savannah. This was something that was publicized by the district attorney's office, but is there anything that you can say in addition about the recent arrests at the correctional facility? I think we're talking about there was an arrest of I guess a former prison employee and some others that were involved in a Suboxone smuggling operation, allegedly.
I have to tell you, I have really no comment because I'm not sure I'm fully aware of all the details of that, and so I probably ought to be careful what I'm saying. Commissioner Harvey or DiGirolamo?
I think the story was in yesterday's newspaper. I think I saw it in yesterday's newspaper. It was from, I think, 2018 or 2019 when the incidents happened. So I really can't comment more than what I saw in the newspaper. Obviously, that was before my time.
Yeah, as I understand it, it was one of the prison guards smuggled strips of Suboxone into the prison, and as I understand it, the one time he had almost 100 strips of Suboxone that he smuggled into the prison, and somehow sold it to some of the inmates in the prison. And I know that is a problem not only here in Bucks County, but around the state and around the country. Suboxone is a drug. It's an opiate. It's used to treat people or help people get off of heroin and opiates. It comes in a strip. And at times it appears that it is the drug of choice for people to smuggle into prison because it's easily hidden in a variety of ways. And I think our Department of Correction does a terrific job in making sure that thing does not happen. And again, I do believe that was over a year ago, maybe almost 2 years ago when that happened. So I know our Department of Correction does a good job to make sure that doesn't happen, and the contraband does not get in our county prisons. Unfortunately, it was a employee and a prison guard who was involved in that, and that's why it got in. And we got to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think we do a good job here in Bucks County.
So I just want to jump in there and say I was sort of taken aback by the question because I thought something happened in the past day or two and somehow I had missed it. So I was the only commissioner who would have been here when that incident happened, which is also kind of amazing, how long the justice system sometimes takes till it's able to deal with things, which is in some ways good. We make sure that we are weighing everything, but I had kind of forgotten that was still hadn't been dealt with yet. And I just want to say that goes to show how good our system is that we were able to catch them. But for me, one of the biggest things it speaks to is addiction and how incredibly powerful that is on every end. Those people who are demanding it and those people who are delivering it, and what a serious problem it is when even people would be in our correctional system able to get that substance. So, I know we're all committed to continuing to work on that. So sorry about that with my memory. It just kind of shocked me.
Hey, I think unless I missed something, if I did, I apologize, but it looks like that's the end of our questions. So if you have any closing comments.
Commissioner Harvey, anything?
I just want to thank all the residents of Bucks for everything they were doing, continue to do to try and keep themselves safe, and keep each other safe. I do want to thank, I see, again, Gail Humphrey and Tom Freitag jumped on just in case there are any questions about the election. I know that they've been working tirelessly in the case of Ms. Humphrey at the risk of her own health to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get the ballots counted properly and accurately and get the results done. And I know they're nearing the finish line of that. And we are aware of obviously issues that happen with the election, and we've already compiled a list of discussion items that we'll be taking on in the coming days and weeks to make sure that November's election is as flawless as we can make it. So, and thank members of the media for joining us and for your efforts as well.
Mr. DiGirolamo?
Yeah, just again, thanks everybody for the questions and joining us. I was a little surprised we didn't get any questions about the election. I know Gail and Tom are on there. They were ready to answer any questions, but we did at our last Board of Election meeting. We voted on forming an advisory task force that I'm going to be on, and we're going to take a look at what happened last election as far as the state laws goes, and especially when it deals with the mail-in ballots and the absentee ballots, because not only Bucks, but there were a lot of other counties, I think, that had some issues with especially opening the envelopes and counting the ballots and taking some time after election. So we're going to look into that to see how possibly we can make some recommendations to Harrisburg and to the legislature and the governor that really assist our Board of Elections to maybe make it easier for them to open these envelopes. I think the key is, and I mean, it was very time consuming opening the envelopes, so maybe allowing boards of elections to open the envelopes and have the ballots ready to scan before the election day would be something that would make sense to me. But we're going to go over everything where we had a little problem here in Bucks County and try to come up with some recommendations that we can make to the state to make sure that we don't have any slip-ups in November.
Thanks. And I just, rather than make any comment, Dr. Damsker or Scott, do you have anything you'd like to end with? Scott's saying no. Dr. Damsker, any words?
Just keep it up, right? If we know all the people won't be doing everything all the time with regards to the recommendations, we're hoping that all the people do some of the things, and we're hoping some of the things are done by people all the time, right? As the old saying goes. But what I can tell you is everything that we're doing is a heck of a lot better than what we were doing back in January or February, right? So do as much as you can. Again, this is a Bucks County team. We want to keep the momentum we've gotten. We've had youth sports now starting to practice. We have all these things going that we really want to have happen. So we want to keep all those things going plus more, and do your best. We know you can't comply with everything all the time. Do the best you can to do as much as you can as much of the time, and we'll be able to keep these cases low, and we'll keep moving forward. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks. And Gail and Tom that are in there, you can see that they're a great example of social distancing and masking. I'm going to be one too because I have to go out. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.